But even if we go into this topic immediately now, deep or not, we need to frame GPT-3 for the listeners, because we are now been throwing around this acronym. What is it?
Yeah. So they recently, before the summer, released one or the largest deep neural network ever released, and that was OpenAI, 175 billion parameters model. You need like hundreds of thousands of machines to even train it or use it. And it was trained in I shouldn't speak too much now. I can speak forever about this. But it was trained in a very simple way. It's a simple language model task, which is simply predict the next word. Given some piece of words, predict what the next one should be. That's it. That's the only thing, the objective it was trained on. And then a huge amount of data and a huge model that they use to train it. So simple task, but really big, both in terms of data and the model. And this one has some really nice properties, like it can do zero few shot learning. You basically just start writing something and you tell it to just proceed. And what you can do is you can, for example, you write in natural language. You can, if you wanted to translate something, for example, you can just take the model as it is pre-trained. You say translate from English to Swedish, and then you say beer, and it will answer öl in Swedish. So you can basically have it performing a large number of tasks with the same model without changing the weights in any way. And you can have it do many of these tasks without annotated data in any way. So it's unsupervised in that way, or self-supervised, I guess it's a more proper term. So it moves towards this dream of general intelligence in the future, of course very far from having that, but it's really impressive what it can do without having annotated data and performing so many tasks with the same model.
Right. What's the coolest examples that you... I've seen a couple of examples. Which one do you think is the coolest ones that sort of blows your mind?
There is this cool one. You can just say what kind of movies would you like, and you just write whatever kind of prompt in natural language, and it just from that understand these are probably the best movies you should watch. And it can basically list those movies, and it seems to understand in a creepy way, what the movies is about and what you mean, and then suggest that. It was really cool, I think.
What about you? Did you see some cool ones?
Well, so perhaps one should reference the Guardian article that was published like a week or maybe a couple of weeks ago, where the Guardian, the UK newspaper, there was this article there, which was written by GPT-3. And when you read it, it was like, oh, this is really coherent, like super interesting. How does this work? And then it turned out that they used GPT-3 in the same way as like the editors had used GPT-3 the same way they make use of journalists, basically saying, well, you are Mr. Journalist, go and write an article on this topic and hand it back to me by Monday, chop. And then GPT-3 went out and it wrote like 3 or 4 or 5 different articles, and then the editorial board sort of did a little bit of a cut-up work, and they sort of polished it up, as editors do with journalists. That's too wordy, that's a bit weird, and then out came this very cohesive, coherent text. And of course, if you market that as, ooh, look at this, the neural network can churn out the completely comprehensible, coherent and intelligent piece of writing on this topic, and it seems to be much more than, say, robot journalism churning out stats on a basketball game, then it feels, as you read it, to be human-like. And you're thinking, my God, this thing is intelligent. It can write, if not poetry, it can write, journalistic prose.
Yes.
But then the problem then in the sense of what is intelligence, is it intelligent, or in what way is it intelligent, is that people then go very quickly from the semblance of intelligence to thinking that, because the lights are on, somebody must be home. But there's nobody home. There's nobody home in GPT-3. There's no little gnome in there, doing things. No, it has the semblance. When it is successful, sometimes it will churn out using poppycock, and you read that, you go, nobody would write like this. So it's sort of a hit and miss thing. But regardless, it's a tremendously impressive pursuit of technology and very interesting as a testing ground or battleground for some of these questions around natural language understanding. And it certainly raises questions about, in the era of digital fake news, deep fakes, what's going on, who's the sender, who's the receiver, what's the agenda, what is this used for? I read some article that somebody wanted to classify GPT-3 as a weapon, or, I mean, it's, but you know, weapons of math destruction, right? So,
yeah, and just to make it, set the record straight a bit, I mean, there is so much hype around this model, and people think they can use it for anything, and it's super smart, and it's really not. There are so many examples where it completely fails to do many things. And even, you know, for most tasks, it's much easier to find a single model that can do anything better than what GPT-3 can do. So I would
specific narrow task
yes,
type model.
So
right.
I mean, the thing that is impressive with GPT-3 is, like, from a more philosophical point of view, that this seamlessly simple approach of just scaling up things seems to work surprisingly well with a very single training objective. But it's not really practically useful. And I hope people understood that more, because we get so many requests, you know, saying, can't we simply use GPT-3 for this?
But I saw the cost when they commercialize this now. What's the cost of pushing GPT-3 to a certain topic? I heard like millions of pounds to get it started on in a context, or I don't know the details. I read something.
Yeah, it's many millions of euros or dollars at least to train it. I think it's like, if you take the one of the best GPUs, like the NVIDIA V100, I think you have to train it for 355 years or something.
Which sort of raises the element of energy consumption and climate impact of tech, right?
Yeah.
And I remember there was an article about OpenAI also. They did this great robotic arm. Which could manipulate the Rubik's cube. I forget. Rubik's. I can never pronounce it.
Rubik's cube.
There you have it. And they were successful in terms of like dexterity of digits, but also, you know, visual recognition of what the cube was doing, and it was amazing, right? And then this guy was like, "Yeah, so what's the energy consumption here?" and OpenAI was like. But then he sort of somehow calculated it and arrived at, you know, it's probably, you know, a couple of nuclear plants running full throttle for a couple of hours or days to just get that cube to be, you know, what's supposed to be. So, of course, I mean, again, with the first principle, or the viability or the implications of the technology or the scalability and the need for finding different approaches, again, surfaces.